Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It is that time of month where we get to do our monthly reading wrap up. I'm going to be wrapping up the books that I read in the month of November. This month I read 5 books, which for me is pretty good. I'm not a super fast reader, and I'm also one of those girlies working 9 to 5. So I really need to make time to read. I see all those videos or TikToks of these people reading like 20 plus books a month, and props to the people that can do that, even with full-time jobs or kids or whatever it may be. I aspire to be you, but I am not yet one of you. This month, I mainly read thrillers and fantasy. It was my first month getting into the fantasy world, and I'm so happy that I can call myself a fantasy girly now. But I think I read 2 thrillers, 2 fantasies, and one that's I don't really know how to classify it. I wanted to say it was like a thriller mystery, but I'm honestly not 100% sure. It may be more like a general fiction. When we get there, I'll let you know what book it is. Let me know down in the comments below how you would classify this book. I think to kick things off, we should start off with the thrillers I read this month. And first up was Local Woman Missing. This book, if you watched my other videos, you would know I gave this book a second chance. I originally tried to read it a few months ago and really couldn't get into it. I think part of it was just me not committing enough time. I was stopping the chapters halfway through. But that being said, I am so happy I gave this book a second chance because I absolutely loved this book. This was a mystery thriller, a classic whodunit, and this kept me on my toes. The story jumps back and forth from different perspectives and different timelines, so 11 years before and then present day. I did not guess the plot twist in this book. I would say there's about 2 plot twists. One of them I kind of figured out closer to the end, and then the second plot twist, did not see that coming. So I really loved this book. I didn't give it 5 stars. I gave it 4 stars only because I felt like the ending, not that it was lacking, but it felt very rushed, and I felt like we could have got a little bit more information as to how the outcome came to be. I don't want to spoil anything, and I would definitely recommend that you read this book if you're looking for kind of like a mystery thriller. It is an easy read and really easy to get into, but just something about it I couldn't commit 5 stars to. The title basically speaks to what the book is, Local Woman Missing. There are local women who end up going missing in this small town. One of them, her name is Shelby, she goes missing while she was out on a run, and not long after, a mother named Meredith and her young daughter Delilah end up going missing. Now, without giving too much away, the daughter is found, and we get her story from her brother's perspective in the current day, while trying to figure out what happened to Meredith, her mom, and Shelby, the other woman that went missing. It is a classic, like I said, whodunit, a great mystery, a great thrilling book, and I would highly recommend. Another thriller I read this month was Never Lie by Freida McFadden. This book was so good. I've read The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. I really enjoyed that one, and this was the second book of hers that I've read. And let me tell you, I was convinced that I had figured it out. I'm like, Miss Freida, I am picking up what you're putting down, all these little hints you're giving me. I have the whole story figured out. I know what's going on. I did not. I did not know what was going on. The plot twist did not see coming for 1,000 miles. My jaw was on the floor when we got to the plot twist. I'm like, okay, I did not know what was going on. It was a psychological thriller. If you don't know what this book is about, it's this young couple who is house hunting. They go to a house, they end up getting snowed in, where they find out that the house was a psychologist's house who ended up going missing. Now, one of the characters in the book, she finds the tapes of the psychologist and her patients, and she starts to listen to them, kind of trying to piece together what happened to the psychologist who has gone missing, potentially killed, what happened, all while being snowed in. I don't want to say too much more about this without giving anything away. Definitely read it if you want a great psychological thriller. For the book that I don't really know how to classify, I wanted to say going into it that it was like a thriller, but reading it, I definitely would not agree with that. I want to just say it's like a general fiction book, but that was Little Fires Everywhere. Now, I read this book for a reading club that I'm a part of, and I had really high hopes for it because a lot of people were hyping it up. There is an Amazon series inspired by the book, and it has a lot of great reviews. One of my friends, she loves it, she's seen it. I don't believe she's read the book. But when I read it, not that I didn't like it, I did enjoy it, but I would only rate it 3 stars, which a 3-star for me is like, I enjoyed the book at the time that I was reading it, but I probably won't think about it again. I will say I did enjoy the storyline, and I think the book had really likable characters, but I did have a hard time getting into it at the beginning. I felt like there was a lot of characters being introduced right off the bat. It gets easier to follow along, and like I said, the storyline was good, but the ending of the book for myself was just a little bit disappointing because I felt like it was very ambiguous. I don't mind that, and I don't mind cliffhangers if there's a second, third, fourth book coming out. But with this book, to my knowledge, it is just a standalone, so I did feel like the ending was pretty ambiguous for being a standalone book, which I know some people enjoy that, but for myself, I personally would have preferred a little bit of a more well-rounded ending. There are a lot of characters in Little Fires Everywhere, but it mainly follows the Richardsons and the Warrens. The Warrens are a mother and daughter who come from a fairly unstable background or living situation, and they move into this perfect community of Shaker Heights, where they're renting out a home from the Richardsons. The book focuses on the relationship between those two families, specifically with motherhood and self-identity. We come to find out everyone has secrets. It is a good book and I would recommend it, but like I said, for me personally, it just didn't resonate as much. I'm really excited about my fantasy reads because typically I'd say I'm like a romance thriller reader, but this is the month that I decided to jump into fantasy, and I am so happy that I did. I absolutely can say that I love fantasy. I read only 2 fantasy books, but that was enough to convince me that I am a fantasy girl. I read Divine Rivals. This book was so good. I really enjoyed the characters. I feel like the 2 main characters were both very likable, which is like a huge thing for me personally. And the storyline is just amazing. This book is written in 3rd person, but looking at dual perspective of characters. This is not something I would normally reach for in terms of the writing style being 3rd person. I personally prefer a 1st person point of view, but this book was so beautifully written that I have no complaints about it being 3rd person. It follows the story of Iris and Roman Kit, who are 2 aspiring journalists at the Oath Gazette. The book takes place in the midst of a war between two gods, and Roman and Iris have a bit of a rivalry going on, trying to get a columnist position at the Oath Gazette. Forrest, Iris's older brother, is enlisted in the war. Now, it's been a few months, she hasn't heard from him, and she decides to write letters to Forrest using her typewriter. She puts them underneath her wardrobe and they magically disappear, except we don't really know who's receiving them. I don't want to spoil too much more. It's a very, very beautiful, great read. And I do have to say that Roman, Kit, you are the definition of a man that if he wanted to, he would. I love the story between Iris and Roman. I feel like both of them are such lovable, likable characters. And of course, another book that we're left on a cliffhanger, and I need to know what's going to happen. I believe the second book is coming out on December 26th. I could be wrong, but I think it's December 26th. I 100% will be picking that up because I need to know what's going to happen. I think it's called Ruthless Vows. So I'm going to pick that up, but 100% love this book, would recommend. Okay, last but not least, probably my highest rated, not highest rated, but my favorite book of the year, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This was the first fantasy book that I've ever read, and I am obsessed. Honestly, I flew through this book, and from the first page, I was captivated. It is an amazing read, and I immediately picked up Iron Flame. I finished the book maybe like a week after Iron Flame came out, and I'm nervous to read Iron Flame now because I don't know when the next book is coming out, and I hate that I'm going to have to wait. But with that being said, if you don't know what Fourth Wing is about, it is centered around a war college. There's different quadrants, and the most prestigious is the Writers Quadrant. There are dragons, there's drama. To me, I would say it's like a Hunger Games-esque, fighting for your life, fighting between each other for survival. Violet, the main character, I love her. I think that she is such a badass. And I mean, Xaden, I feel like I don't need to say anything else about Xaden, but I love him. I love Violet and I love Xaden together. This book is like romantic-y and definitely an enemies to lovers, which I didn't know that I liked that. But after reading this book, I've realized that I actually really love enemies to lovers. So that trope is in here. If you haven't read it, what are you doing? Go pick up Fourth Wing, especially if you're just getting into fantasy. It is not hard to get into. I was really nervous about a lot of world building, things I wasn't going to understand, but it is not hard to follow along. There's not a ton of world building, and the story, I feel like I went through every emotion. I was crying, I was happy, I was angry, and of course, the book leaves you on a cliffhanger, and that is exactly why I picked up Iron Flame. I feel like I can't say enough good things about Fourth Wing, so you just need to go pick it up, read it. If you have read it, let me know what your thoughts are. I'm curious for people who have read it and maybe didn't enjoy it, why. I want to know because I absolutely loved it, especially just entering into the fantasy world. And those are all the books that I read in the month of November. I'm hoping this month, in the month of December, I'm able to read a little bit more. I have some time off of work closer to the end of the month, so I definitely plan to spend my time reading. If you haven't already seen my other video I posted, it's my Instagram followers actually picked my December TBR. So those are the books that I plan on reading. I will 100% do a wrap up at the end of December, but I'm hoping to post some more videos in between. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below the books on your December TBR. Thank you for watching. Bye.